to you, Balbaki. You can go ahead with your presentation.
Okay. We still have 1 minute till it's time. So do you want me to proceed? Or it's...
I think we can wait for another minute and then begin.
Yeah, let's wait 1 more minute.
Meanwhile, so I'm back, guys. Sorry, I had connectivity issue. So meanwhile, I would like to ask the audience to type in the Q&A list. What is their understanding of Ansible if they've heard about it before? Okay, so has anyone heard about Ansible before? Do you know anything about Ansible?
Okay,
great.
I think we can start.
Yes, yes. I think it's going to be a very exciting session, Balbaki. So I've been really looking forward to this session. Let's start.
Okay, thank you, Namita, and yeah, it's my pleasure to be on this call with Redington to tell you more about what Red Hat is doing in terms of automating enterprises and helping enterprises move fast and become more agile. As we know, automation is not a new subject. Most of us have heard about automation in different ways, in different use cases. Today, we're going to tell you about the Red Hat Ansible automation platform, and I want to explain why people need to automate, what is the value proposition of Ansible, and where can we use it with our customers, within our enterprises even. And I would like to also introduce the fact that currently Ansible is the fastest growing automation tool in the industry today. So it's gaining a lot of recognition, and people are using it more and more. So let's explore it all together, why we need automation. So in its basic form, automation happens when we meet a challenge or a task that we do it in a repetitive manner, and we really don't want to do that again and again. So we have a problem and we never want to solve the same problem again and again. Okay, that's in its basic form. And each one of us and each one of our customers have many tasks, regardless of which department they are in, that they always do in a repetitive way. And Ansible and an automation platform is there to help them speed that up. The idea behind this is that anything that is not automated is slowing you down and it's consuming time from you. And imagine there's the tool that can give you time, that can give you efficiency, that can give you means to become more productive, and your ability to respond to business needs and to the different department needs in a much faster way. So anything that is not automated is slowing you down. So automation is key for any kind of transformation the customer is going through, or any kind of business initiative the customer is going through. Today, we live in a world where people expect instant results. People don't like to wait. We want immediate gratification of everything we think of and we need. And automation is here to help us move fast and respond to the needs in a much faster way. If we look at how currently automation is being or is happening in the enterprises today, we see that it is happening in what we call a siloed, or a domain-specific automation. So we see, for example, the IT operations, having multiple automation tools Okay, one of them to automate infrastructure, another one to automate patching, for example. A networking team have their own automation tool, security and DevOps have their own automation tasks. And each one of these departments and each one of these groups within an organization is having more and more needs and a growing number of use cases that they want to build on top, okay? And it's just getting more complex. So we have the situation of multiple tools, multiple silos, a growing number of use cases with a limited team, limited resources, limited knowledge, and limited ability to really cope up with all of these new trends and all of these tools that are coming in and the new technologies, and to retain the knowledge within our customers. So really, this is a main challenge that our customers are facing. Really, how to move fast and to manage the complexity and the growing number of use cases as the IT, landscape is growing and becoming more and more sophisticated. So how can we help these, different teams across these different departments to really, automate tasks faster and to really share automation across all of them? We believe that there are two ingredients for a successful automation tool. The first one, it has to be simple, because complexity kills productivity. So if we are able to look at an automation tool that is simple, easy to learn, human readable, can be implemented by a specific team within an organization and can be shared across the different teams in the organization, then I think that this is something that can help spread automation across the different groups and departments and use cases. The second ingredient is that it has to be open. Open means it has to have a growing, community around it. It has to integrate with different technologies, different products, different platforms, different operating systems, because we don't want to be limited by that automation tool. We need that automation tool to grow as our use cases grow and as our technology changes with time. So these two ingredients are very important as we decide to choose what kind of automation tool we want to standardize on or to industrialize within our organization. And these are the two main components why Ansible is one of the fastest growing tools in the industry today. It is called Ansible is the universal language because, number one, it is simple to use. It is based on YAML language. It's just a descriptive way, a step-by-step process of describing how you do your tasks today that you are able to take and translate and write it in what we call a playbook. Okay, so it's very simple to use. It's human readable across different teams. And once you read the playbook, you understand what's happening and you are able to use it again and again and modify it across different teams. The second powerful aspect of Ansible is that the use cases around it are spread across all the IT requirements, whether we're talking about infrastructure provisioning, application provisioning, network automation, application lifecycle automation, security automation, a lot of use cases. And we're going to cover that in the second part of the presentation today. The third component is that it is agentless by design, which means that we don't need to worry about installing agents, managing agent vulnerabilities and agent lifecycles. So it's easy to use, easy to implement, and you can get productive in a short amount of time. And of course, as you all know, Ansible is part of the Red Hat portfolio, and it is an open source based tool. Being part of the open source, it means it's community driven. All the modules to integrate with the different technologies are already available in the open source and are provided by the vendors themselves to automate their tools. So these three main components make Ansible a very special tool to help you move fast and to integrate with any existing technology you have in the data center today, and to basically standardize on as your technology landscape evolves, in the coming months or years. So it's very strategic and it has a differentiated value proposition. Also, Ansible is recognized in the industry as, one of the fastest and most powerful infrastructure automation platforms, as you can see here by Forrester. So it received the highest scores in the criteria of community support, market approach, the vision, consulting, and planned enhancements. So it's a very fast-growing automation tool. And as you can see in the coming slides, there's a lot of use cases around it and a lot of growing ecosystem around that tool that is being invested by Red Hat. So again, you're talking about an industry-leading tool for infrastructure automation, and it can do also network automation, application provisioning, lifecycle management, orchestration, and many use cases. If you see, look here, this is just an example of how Ansible is growing, in the whole industry. So in Ansible version 2.0, we had over 500 modules. And by modules, I mean, these are ready-made modules that you can just call as part of the Ansible playbook to automate a specific technology or specific operating system or specific infrastructure platform. And we moved from 500 to over 3,000 in version 2.8. And currently, we are reaching almost 4,000 modules available to integrate with almost anything you have in the data center today. And I think that a very good example to tell you how the ecosystem around Ansible is growing is just, Google. I want Ansible for F5. I want Ansible for VMware. I want Ansible for Cisco. I want Ansible for Palo Alto. I want Ansible for Oracle, Linux, Windows, etc. And you'll find all the modules, all the documentations available for you over there to just look at, call, and start to use. So one of the main differentiating capabilities of Ansible is that it becomes the common language across the different teams in the organization, and you will be able to have a team within the organization that have Ansible expertise, and they are able to build use cases to the different teams across the organization. So you start to have collaborative approach across the different teams, where, for example, if the infrastructure or the operations teams write a playbook to automate a specific task, the same task or playbook can be shared by the different teams, so they can add on top of it to automate their tasks as well. Because it is a human-readable automation language, because it can be spread across the different teams, it can be, communicated and shared between the different teams. So you have, common knowledge, standardization of practices in the organization, as well as optimizing your day-to-day, operations across the different teams. So it caters for the needs for all of these teams together on a standardized, unified tool in the organization that, you build training on, you have expertise on, and you standardize on. And again, Ansible is not here to replace your existing tools directly from day one. Ansible can extend any existing tool you have today to establish a specific use case or a sophisticated use case, or to extend the capabilities of your existing tool. And over time, as you standardize more and more on Ansible, you look at spreading Ansible in the organization across these different use cases. So if you want to look at Ansible in depth, okay, as you can see here, if you look at the bottom of the slide, we see all the different departments in any organization, right? The operations teams, the networking team, the security, the developers, application developer team. All of these teams need to automate their tasks, and they are looking for tools to automate their tasks. This is where Ansible engine becomes the universal language of automation, okay, across all of these teams. And on top of this Ansible engine, okay, we have the Ansible Tower, which is the graphical user interface, the enterprise control platform for Ansible, where users can log into the Ansible, Tower, check out their automation tasks, check out what automation tasks they can run, and start to build, and plan their automation tasks on a day-to-day basis. And on top of that, we have built a lot of SaaS, software as a service, and more enterprise capabilities for Ansible to have more, reporting capabilities, analytics around Ansible, the certified modules of Ansible, and policies that are, ready for you to just pull down and start to use Ansible in a quick way. So these three layers constitute the whole Ansible automation platform from us. The Ansible engine, which has basically the actual YAML language, the playbooks, and the modules. The Ansible Tower, which is the graphical user interface and gives you the enterprise look and feel with the controls, with the security integrated. And on top of that, we have the capabilities that we have built around Ansible to give you the the enterprise reporting analytics around that platform. So a basic question that is always asked: what can I do with Ansible, right? Let's quickly summarize what can be done with Ansible. Number one, you can provision hardware across any technology, storage, compute, and you are able to provision virtual machines from VMware and from other virtualization technologies as well. And you are able to also provision public clouds, okay? Whether you have on AWS or Azure or Google, you are able to provide provisioning capabilities. In addition to that, you are able to install operating systems across Windows, Linux, and also some Unix platforms. You are able to automate the life cycle of applications as well. You are able to do configuration management, because Ansible is not only an automation tool, but it's also a configuration management tool. So it can standardize configurations, it can do versioning, and you can always check against these configurations for any configuration drift, and check the compliance of your platform. On the networking side, it has a very unique tool on the networking side. It's able to automate, switches, routers, firewalls. It's able to, check the configurations of these devices. It can save these configurations. It can check against these configurations for any drift, and it can also maintain compliance, and it can roll back to the previous configuration in case anything happens. So a very important tool for compliance and network configuration. It can also do orchestration between different tools, and it has a very nice and unique use case for security and compliance, where you are able to basically use Ansible to connect between your SIEM solutions, between your IDS and IPS and your firewalls. So you are able to take triggers from your SIEM solution and block firewalls and enable IP addresses based on your specific security requirement. And we're going to cover that in the the use case section in this presentation. So again, it becomes the universal language, multiple use cases, that can run across multiple platforms, right? Just Google the technology you'd like to automate, and you'll find an Ansible, module, and maybe an Ansible playbook as well, ready for you to be used over there. So again, we're talking about automating networks, automating Windows, automating Linux, automating virtualization, containers, private clouds, public clouds, monitoring tools, ticketing tools, DevOps operations, storage, physical hardware, and any kind of thing. It's basically almost anything that you have in the data center today. And of course, this is just a sample of the integrations that are available. As I mentioned, Ansible Tower complements Ansible by giving it the enterprise look and feel. It gives it the nice graphical user interface where you are able to log in into the Ansible Tower. It integrates with the authentication system that you have on-premise. So your users can be directly transferred with the same policies and rights into the Ansible Tower. You are able to categorize your infrastructure into separate tiers. So you have, for example, the development team, the production infrastructure. You are able to segregate database tier, web tiers, etc. So again, because you can run these Ansible automation tasks against specific inventories. So you are able to categorize your infrastructure and run specific automation tools against specific inventory. You are able to delegate tasks. You are able to schedule tasks. You are able to, collect specific use cases under a project, and you are able to push that and monitor the automation task and troubleshoot that automation. And it gives you all the logging capabilities, and it has its own APIs that can integrate with any existing tool that you have in the data center today. So again, Ansible is a nice enterprise tool that you can have in the data center. It gives you all the security and controls to know who is automating what, and how is the automation task, performing, and whether it's completed successfully, and what is the outcome of each and every automation task. If we want to look in depth into how Ansible automation works, okay, on the left-hand side, you see the users, right? These are the users who will interact with Ansible. And as you can see here, at the heart of Ansible, we have the Ansible playbooks. So users will integrate with Ansible playbooks. And I'm going to explain what is an Ansible playbook. And then as part of the Ansible playbook, okay, which is just a sequential execution of tasks, okay, that you are describing in a playbook using a YAML language. It calls the modules, okay? These modules are the ones that contain the actual Python code or PowerShell in case you're automating Windows. So these modules will contain the code that will run and automate the actual inventory that you have in the data center. So these modules are available in thousands in the open source. You don't need to write code. All you need to write and to worry about is to write that Ansible playbook, which is a sequential execution of tasks, okay? And then that Ansible playbook includes the modules you need to automate your devices. So it's very simple, it's straightforward, and as you can see here, it can run on hosts, on network devices, and it can automate private and public clouds, and it can also take information and save information into a CMDB if you have it in the data center. So let's give you a brief idea about playbooks, because playbooks are the heart of Ansible. And if I want to summarize what is a playbook, okay, and how you can identify opportunities for automation, it's just by asking a simple question, okay? Are you able to describe a repetitive task that is a time-consuming task today in a sequence? Are you able to describe and write it on a piece of paper, as you can see here? If you are able to describe a manual task, in a sequential way, step-by-step approach to anything that you are doing today in the data center, then you are able to take that task, the sequential execution of that task, and transform it into an Ansible playbook, okay? And then that task can be automated with the push of a button, okay? And in this way, as you can see here, this is a sample of a playbook. It's a journey of small steps. On the left-hand side, you can see the Ansible playbook. And on the right-hand side, it is the explanation of that Ansible playbook, okay? So in this example, for example, we want to install and start Apache, okay? So as you can see here, you can set the hosts to be the web, and you can call a name, install and start Apache, and then you start to call the specific modules which will do the actual task. So for example, here you have a module called yum module, okay, to install Apache packages, and that module takes specific parameters. Sorry. And that module takes specific parameters. So it takes the name and the state. So latest means I want to install the latest package. And then we call another module called service to start that Apache service, and we give that module, okay, the name, the state, and enabled yes to start that service, okay, in very simple terms. So now we have an Ansible module to install and start Apache, which calls two modules, the yum to install the package and the service to start that package. And that's it. There's no coding. It's just an explanation of the task that we want to achieve, and that's it. Again, all we need to ask our customers, is there a manual task that you are able to, that you are doing on a day-to-day basis that you are able to describe in a step-by-step approach or through a process, and you are able to translate it into an Ansible playbook. Now, of course, if the customer is able to describe a specific process they are doing, we are able to optimize that process while we are automating. We are able to look at areas of optimization, of making it fast, of calling, specific other modules, raising a ticket as part of that process, getting approval, So it becomes like a sequential execution of multiple playbooks, maybe, okay, depending on the complexity of the task that the customer is doing. So multiple playbooks can be combined into a workflow, okay? So you can run Ansible for simple jobs or for complex workflows. You can react to problems via workflows. So if you get a trigger, for example, from your ticketing system, you can call an Ansible playbook to automate a specific task automatically, okay? You can combine playbooks from different teams, and you can resynchronize inventories during the running of that specific playbook. So again, this is a sample of the Ansible Tower where, you want to run a specific task, and you want, for example, here, you want to create a web, a F5 pool, and then if it's successful, you can run another task, or if it fails, you want, for example, send a notification and create a ticket, for example, okay? So again, you can run playbooks, and based on the outcome of that playbook, you can run other tasks as well, success, failure, and you can able to automate processes within your organization. Very strategic tool, very strategic to enable you to move faster and to standardize your day-to-day manual processes into an automated way and create policies and create compliance capabilities within the organization. In addition, as you have seen, these Ansible modules, you need to give them specific parameters, okay? Now, you are able to have this kind of like a self-service for the end users, right? So you can give them what we call like surveys. So the end user basically puts his configuration, such as an IP address, the location of the file, or a specific target, what kind of tiers, in a kind of a survey where they can put their parameters, and then these parameters are translated into the playbook that they want to run. So in another way, we can say that you can standardize on one playbook, and you can run it hundreds or thousands of times, each time in a different way, depending on the parameters that you provided, using these kind of surveys or self-service kind of capabilities. Okay, so you can provide a default choice, or you can enter these variables every time you want to run that playbook. In a nutshell, we are able to transform the infrastructure platform in our data center into an API-driven infrastructure. So if we are able to describe the virtual platform, the networking, the actual application deployment, the operating system configuration in specific playbooks, then we can run it as an API-driven infrastructure, and we are able to modify it as we like. We are able to share it between different teams, and we are able to basically standardize on a common way of providing or provisioning our infrastructure. A sample example is, for example, in an enterprise where you have the development, the testing, and the pre-production and the production environments, and you want to standardize the way that the application is deployed across these different environments, or you want to standardize and build on top of that playbook as you move from development to testing to quality assurance and to production. So you can have one playbook, and as it moves from one environment to another, you add capabilities to that playbook. So once it moves to production, it is fully standardized, fully secure, and fully compliant with your policies. So again, it enables you to have what we call an API-driven infrastructure. Now we move to the use case section, and just to give you an idea that we're going to have like 5 minutes at the end of the presentation for questions and answers. So we will be happy to answer any questions later. Let's give you an idea about the use cases. So on the infrastructure side, as we mentioned earlier, you are able to again provision a traditional infrastructure, but also you are able to standardize your operating system configuration. Okay, so whether you're talking about Linux platforms, Windows platforms, because if you look at poor SLAs, related to non-standard configuration of your operating systems, or you have bug fixes, etc., it really consumes a lot of the time of the operations team. So here you are able to standardize your operating system configuration. You are able to automate the patching process and speed up, the compliance once you are able to provision each and every new virtual machine, for example. So this is one type of use case. Another use case is basically to deliver virtual resources faster. Okay, so if you have a virtual platform and you want to automate the provisioning not only of the virtual machine, but also of the network, of the firewall, of the storage, of the operating system, and then patch the operating system, making sure it's compliant, and directly provision a fully secure and compliant virtual machine, all in one step, all with a single click. Okay, and definitely you are able to throughout this process to stop at any time, take approvals, raise a ticket, or whatever you want. But again, it's automating the entire task through one automation tool. Okay, so this is one nice use case for Ansible. Maintaining growing infrastructure, again, as enterprises start with a small infrastructure and at scales, definitely the infrastructure and operations team will not be able to keep up with the complexity that is growing and with the scale and with the management and with the security requirements. So again, automation helps you scale and standardize the process, and you are able to, again, run Ansible as the API of your infrastructure as you want to scale without worrying about, you know, the added complexity and the added basically tasks with the growing infrastructure. So again, for large complex IT infrastructure, automation is key, and customers are achieving almost 50% reduced IT management time. Another use case is hybrid cloud, and I think today hybrid cloud is on the mind of each and every IT department. So again, if you want to scale into multi-cloud environments and you want to provision your instances on any of the public cloud providers, right? You know, it's hard to basically know the operations of these multi-clouds because each one have its own different tool, its own different task, and you want a tool to help you quickly authenticate and connect to your public cloud provider and provision that instance and get it up and running quickly for you, okay, once you need it. So again, Ansible has ready-made public cloud modules, okay, to automate via single API and through reusable code, okay? So again, you can achieve up to 20% efficiency gain versus traditional tool or manual processes as achieved by one of our customers. So again, public cloud is the main use case, public and hybrid cloud use cases. Migration from one cloud to another, basically. The same automation code can be written cloud agnostic, okay? So the same code, the same API, the same provisioning process can be standardized. And once you want to provision on AWS, you just add the AWS module. If you want to provision on Azure, you add the Azure module. And this is how you are able to standardize one way of provisioning your infrastructure, and you can deploy across multiple clouds. Okay, so again, this is good for public cloud providers and for customers who have a multitude of use cases across hybrid clouds. Integrating the private cloud as well. You know, as I mentioned earlier, the ability to combine both the compute, the storage, the networking, and the management and integration with monitoring and ticketing tools in your data center through a unified automation process helps you integrate and automate your private cloud experience. So again, a very nice use case. Many customers are looking into it, and it's a growing number of, we'll see an expanded use case across this type of challenge because, you know, everyone today is trying to move faster and to integrate automation across the multiple technologies they have in the data center. We moved into operating systems. You know, many customers have Linux and different versions of Linux, right? Sometimes, and they want to automate basically the ability to patch, you know, across these different Linux modules or to install multiple Linux instances, you know, using one automation tool. So again, Ansible has over tens of modules for different Linux versions that is able to do that. And specifically on Red Hat Linux, we have a unique capability to integrate with Red Hat Insights. Okay, so just to give you a background, you know, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, which is the worldwide leading Linux platform, it comes with Red Hat Insights. Now, Red Hat Insights is a SaaS service that is free of charge with any Red Hat Linux subscription that allows you to quickly have an overview of your Linux environment with all the vulnerabilities that are available there and all the ways that you can optimize your environment. So what you are able to do as part of that, we also offer you the Ansible playbooks to automate and to patch and to secure and to remediate any vulnerability on your operating systems out of the box. So in this way, with Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you are already getting the Ansible playbooks to optimize your infrastructure and to make it secure and to make it, you know, operating in a much more efficient way. So what you do is that with Red Hat Ansible, you are able to pull these Ansible playbooks and quickly schedule the automation tasks on your Linux nodes. Okay, so this is again a very nice advantage for Red Hat Ansible to pull directly the Ansible modules from the Red Hat Insights and patch and quickly remediate your Linux platforms in a fully automated way. Definitely, this complements the Red Hat Satellite, which is the actual platform for patching and compliant for the Linux platforms. But again, here we're talking about more sophisticated tasks, more automated jobs, and enhanced automation across multiple instances, across multiple environments. Another use case customers use Ansible is for Windows automation. So as part of the Ansible platform, we have over 90 Windows modules and over 1,300 PowerShell DSC resources to automate Windows. So it's a really huge, a repository of modules and use cases and playbooks that you can run against your Windows environment, and you are able to do a lot of your day-to-day tasks, right? Including enabling and disabling Windows features, restarting Windows, configuring Windows Active Directories, installing Windows updates, pushing and executing any PowerShell script. It can also integrate with Windows packages such as the Chocolate package manager. We are able to, again, create, manage local users and groups, start and stop and manage Windows services. Again, any day-to-day task, there is a big of this. And if you Google Ansible for Windows, you'll find white papers around how Ansible can automate Windows, and we have a specific white paper called 10 use cases for Ansible to automate your Windows tasks. So you can also check that out. Now we come to a very interesting use case around network automation. Now, network automation is a very strategic use case for Ansible, because if we look at the IT industry landscape, we realize that the IT infrastructure landscape has evolved. If we look at the IT infrastructure, there are multiple tools to automate the IT infrastructure: the virtual machine provisioning, the storage provisioning. It has evolved basically. However, if we look at the network automation landscape, we realize that network admins still use a lot of CLI commands, okay, in the network. It hasn't really evolved like other parts of the IT landscape. So network automation is a very, very nice use case, and within Ansible, you'll see a lot of platforms supported over there. We have over 65 network platforms supported. We have over 1,000 network modules, and there are over 15 network roles, which combine specific use cases ready for you to directly use. So what can we do with Ansible? Okay, again, the idea is to combine the complex network IT landscape that you have today across multiple vendors, as you can see here, and combine them and automate them using single tasks, single playbooks, okay, and check the compliance and make sure that your network is always compliant. So within this abstraction that Ansible creates around your network, we are able to define 3 main use cases, but definitely these are just main use cases. Each customer might have their own specific use case that we are able to cater to and to define. So if you can see here, the common use cases are 3 around the network. On the left-hand side, we have the first one, which is the backup and restore. Again, Ansible, one of the main differentiating capabilities of Ansible is that it is agentless. So what it is able to do, it's able to check the configuration of your network switches and routers and firewalls and to save that configuration, okay? And it's able to store and back up that configuration, okay? So in case, God forgive, you come next day to your work and you find that part of your network is down, you are able to quickly roll back to the previous configuration saved, and you can, restore and become productive again in a fast way. So this is one of the main use cases, because you are able to, save that configuration, back it up, and restore from that configuration. And always remember that Ansible is not only an automation tool, it's also a configuration management tool. So here we are checking the configurations. Another use case is that suppose you want to run a specific command on a specific switch or router, okay? With Ansible, you are able to back up that configuration of that switch and router and run that command against that configuration, okay? So you are able to test things not in a production, but also and test specific commands and specific instructions on your switches. The second use case is configuration compliance. Again, because we are able to save the configuration of your routers and switches, we are able to always check against any configuration drift. Okay, and we can run a command every day, for example, against the configuration of our routers and switches, and understand if there is any configuration change and what is the configuration change is about and who did that configuration change. And we are able to basically detect problems before they actually impact our network, or we are able again to restore and enforce configuration policy. The third use case is dynamic documentation. We are able to quickly audit your system services, understand what is the operating system running on each and every switch. We are able to grab the software versions, interface status, and build reports accordingly. Okay, so we are able to have dynamic documentation on your network and quickly configure it and quickly report it. So these are common use cases, but we see customers use Ansible for network automation in a much more sophisticated way. Some of them to capture specific IP addresses. I want a list of ports that are using that specific service. Some service providers use Ansible to know, for example, which customers are using which ports on which specific IPs and report that. So again, multiple use cases, multiple capabilities that can be provided. On the application side, again, one of the main use cases of Ansible is to automate your CI/CD pipeline. So if you have an application development team, and this application development team, they need, as part of their application build and deploy process, they need to provision, they need to, for example, to test their code, and then provision infrastructure and deploy that code against that infrastructure and have automated builds, and then move from testing to quality assurance, then to production. We are able to automate that with Ansible. Okay, we can automate the build and the transition as well. So it has main use case with CI/CD integration, and it can help empower teams to perform reliable tests and integration through CI/CD. Okay, so again, customers achieve 10 minutes instead of 2 hours for the test. And one day, it took them only 1 day to adopt Ansible. And we're going to see that one of the main differentiating capabilities of Ansible and competitive edges is its ability to have a quick ROI, because it's simple to implement, it's simple to integrate, the modules are available over there in the industry, the playbooks are available. It's just need to install Ansible in 1 day, write the playbook, push button, and you are able to automate and move fast. One of the nice and evolving use cases with the Ansible compliance. If we look at our customers' landscape, we see that again on the networking side, we see that it's a complex mix of multiple technology. Remedy from whatever vendor you have your IDS and switches, you have enterprise firewall platforms, multiple technical work. And this is where Ansible can act as the central IBM we have with enterprise firewalls, with F5, Fortinet, Cisco, Checkpoint, IDS and IPS, and Sanko. So have already certified content and place. I'm going to just give you what can be done and how can automate tasks. So we are able to detect the triage of suspicious activities. You explained how we are able to investigate and enhance enrichment on the firewall, so we are better prepared to respond to this attack. So it's, as you can see here, it's an automated process, okay, that starts on the left-hand side by the SIEM solution, for example, that generates an offense from an anomaly on a mission site. Okay, so we detect an anomaly or a risk from a certain site or a specific infrastructure platform. So what can we do in an automated way? Instead of responding manually or not knowing what to do or taking time to respond, we can automate that process. So number one, we can go to your ticketing system and raise a ticket, okay? And we populate it with all the relevant data. And then we go into the firewall and basically we increase the logging on the firewall, okay? And send the logs to, again, the SIEM solution. So we increase logging on the firewalls in this case, which this is what we call investigation enrichment. On the firewall, all multiple, or we can go also and increase logging on the infrastructure, on the servers, on the operating systems. So we can collect more and more logs and send them directly to the SIEM solution, so we are able to analyze faster. And then once we detect that, for example, it's a false positive alert, we are able to go back to these firewalls and roll them back to their previous configuration, reduce the logging, and then we go and close the ticket in an automated way. So this is one use case where we are able to respond to tasks in a much faster way. Another use case is threat hunting. Okay, so if you have a new update, a new CVE update, how are you able to respond to that CVE update? Okay, this is also a task where, you know, with the threat hunting, it's called the master block list automation inwards, where we are able to, for example, respond to a specific updated security bulletin. Okay, so we get a new security bulletin, and then we go and we raise a ticket in our ticketing system in an automated way, and then we go to this SIEM solution, update that, you know, threat, and run complete checkup. Okay, and then once for example, identified that there is no threat, we go and close that ticket in an automated way. So this is where we can have such a use case, and we can have an inverse use case for that as well, which is automation, not inwards but outwards. Another use case is incident response. So suppose you get, you know, a specific threat from an anomaly or a risk, how we are able to respond, okay, and how we are able to automate the response to, such as blocking IP addresses or blocking specific ports on your application. So this, again, can reduce up to 80% of man hours for an automated security update. A sample use case is blocking public IPs, as we can see here, for an incident response. So again, if we have our SIEM solution generating an offense from an anomaly, from an external network parameter, or from an IP flagged on a security bulletin, for example, then we can raise the ticket directly and go into the actual firewall, and we add that blacklist object to the group on the edge firewalls, and then we close the ticket and we check with the SIEM solution. So again, we can close that specific update, and we can close the ticket accordingly. So again, this is how we can respond to specific requests about blocking specific IP addresses and responding to specific threats in a much faster and a much more optimal way. So this is around security automation. Again, we're talking about multiple platforms, multiple technologies, multiple use cases that we have. Now, to summarize, you know, you've seen Ansible, how it works. You've seen Ansible, you know, what is it about, you know, the user interface of Ansible, how we can interact with it, how we can create playbooks, how we can, you know, use it to automate infrastructure, applications, how we are able to automate network, how we are able to automate security. So the opportunity with Ansible is that whenever you go to any customer, whenever you go to any department, right, you are able to create value. You are able to raise a use case with the customer. You are able to identify something that you can help and add value to your customer. It's just that you need to ask the right questions. You know, what is a repetitive task that you are doing on a day-to-day basis? What is a time-consuming job that you'd like to automate? How we can help automate across different teams, right? So there's a task that crosses the boundaries of different teams and different tools. You know, how can we help you automate that task across these different teams and across these different technologies? When we are able to ask these questions, we are able to quickly identify, problems and challenges with the customers, that we are able to create value and create a differentiation and value to the end customer. Because there's no customer that is not, automating today or requires automation. There's no customer that is not overwhelmed with day-to-day tasks. And if we look at the COVID-19 thing, right, and with many customers working remotely, they are challenged by, how they will be able to manage their infrastructure remotely, and they will need automation tools to, manage their network, manage their infrastructure remotely, troubleshoot their infrastructure, have a fully automated, provisioning capabilities across different tools. And this is where Ansible comes to play. Okay, so again, all the factors are helping to position Ansible as a leading platform for automation across different use cases. Now, we complement Ansible with some enterprise capabilities, including number one, Ansible content collections. So many customers ask us, out of these thousands of modules to automate any technology, any operating system, any infrastructure, public clouds, etc., what are the ones that are supported by Red Hat? Because we want to implement Ansible as an enterprise platform, and we need Red Hat support. We need Red Hat expertise, and this is where we created what we call the Ansible content collections. And the idea here is to basically have a centralized place to publish the Red Hat certified Ansible modules that we have tested with our platform, and we are able to help and support. Okay, so if you go to cloud.redhat.com and you click on Ansible, and you will see the Ansible content collections that you can browse and see the list of supported modules by Red Hat for Ansible. And you can, make sure that when you get Ansible from Red Hat, you will get also the support and the latest updates on these modules as the infrastructure, is updated, or as the vendor themselves update their platforms. You will get also the updated modules for these. So it helps you have a consistent content delivery mechanism, okay, with pre-built automation content from certified partners and Red Hat. Because not only the open source community creates the content, it's also the vendors themselves. So Cisco provides their own Ansible playbooks. F5 provide their own Ansible playbooks. Palo Alto, infrastructures, Windows, they provide their own Ansible playbooks. It's not Red Hat only. It's a community-driven thing. We also have the Automation Hub, okay? So again, it is also gives you access to trusted, supported content collections from Red Hat and certified partners. And within that hub, you are able to manage, test, and share your organization's view of available content to automation users with enterprise controls. Okay, so again, it's available locally and on the public cloud in the future. We also have automation analytics. Okay, so if you want to have some kind of a reporting to know, which teams are automating which tools the most, what is the most used playbook, what is the most automated, inventories you have in the data center, which team is automating the most, right? So you can have all of this kind of, tools and intelligence around who is doing what in the organization. And finally, we have the automation service catalog, right? You want to treat automation like a self-service thing and a cloud-like, look and feel, right? So we created what we call the automation service catalog. Today, it's available as a SaaS service, but later on, we will try to provide it also on-premise. So again, you're able to describe a full automated job, in a single push button. And once you click that push button, you can fill out a specific survey about the specific IP addresses, about the specific network, about the specific CPU network, details that you want, or specific file to provision, or specific operating system. And then you are able to push it as a single automation task to provision the full infrastructure or the network or whatever you want. So self-service capabilities are part of what we are creating around Ansible as well. So again, enhancing its enterprise capabilities and look and feel. We have, again, thousands of customers who are using Ansible. major names across in the industry, across telco, financial industry, government accounts, in the country and outside the country. Again, Ansible is becoming more and more an enterprise automation platform because its value is that it is based on open source, it's open, it's simple to use, and it covers use cases across the whole organization. Okay, and it moves you from siloed automation into organic automation across the whole enterprise. So we have major customers standardizing on Ansible. And again, you can get it all in one subscription. So in Ansible, we don't have different versions and different subscription types. It's just one subscription, either with standard or enterprise support, and that's it. Okay, and you get all of these components within it in one subscription. Okay, all of the capabilities are built into the platform, and it's easy to get started. Customers can achieve up to 150% ROI in less than 3 months because it's simple, because the modules are there, because the content is there already available. It's just standing up the platform, getting the playbooks that you want around the technology you want to automate, customizing these playbooks, and you're ready to go. It's that simple. So I think that we have 5 minutes left, as I promised you. I'm here to take questions. So if you can help me, Namita, with the questions, I'll be more than happy to answer any raised questions, please. This is something that you have the ability to do because, after all, an Ansible playbook is just a YAML file. You can customize it, you can edit it as you like.